everyone, and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is a Blue Collar Wine Show where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. And continuing with the theme of Washington Wine Month, they said, this is the last week of March. March is Washington Wine Month. Also August. I think May is Oregon Wine Month. Somebody told me there's a National Sauvignon Blanc Day in April. I have to figure out when exactly that is. I wrote it down somewhere. Anyway, these are ways to get people aware of what's going on. And of course, Washington is the second leading producer of wine in the United States. Of course, not even coming close to Cali. A lot more acres planted in California, of course. But the beauty of Washington, and I've talked to this about with a couple of guys, is the diversity of wines that they can produce that are very, very good. More so than many other, making sure my cat doesn't knock over the stand. But anyway, they can make some great wines of many different varieties, anywhere from Grenache to Mourvedre to Cinsault to Petit Verdot to Petit Syrah. All those wines coming out of Washington, including of course Merlot and Cab and so forth, are excellent wines. And in particular, Washington does a really good job with Syrah and Merlot. And being the fact that's my home state, I want to spend this last week reviewing many of the different wines that come out of Washington State. I've done a couple of episodes, but I did one. The last episode I did was on Cab Franc, which, I really like Cab Franc. I think Washington does Cab Franc very well. Now we're going to do Cabernet Sauvignon, the baby, the offspring of Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc. There you go, I got it out. So we're getting started right away. I've got 4 wines. I want to get right through these, and we'll check them out. We got several different vintages, which is really cool. Yeah, no, we don't have several. We got 2 11s and 2 13s. So we're kind of skating around the really good vintage of 2012. So the first one we're going to do is the Sharecroppers Cabernet Sauvignon 2013, Columbia Valley. And this is a part of the David O'Reilly portfolio of Owen Rowe. They do Sharecroppers, and this is their second label. And this goes for $16. So this is right out of the vat, basically. 13 hasn't been out on the market that long. We just went through the 12s. Kind of a cool label. I did really well with the 12, so I'm very curious about the 13. Somebody asked me about ordering a case. I said, well, let me try the 13 before you go buying a case of it. And really what that highlights, and I think is if you are a wine person, especially if you're in the business of selling wine, it is very critical to taste new vintages. They can make a huge difference. Sometimes not so much, but a lot of times they make a big difference in the quality of the wine. Classic example, at least recently for me, was a very good 2012 Washington State Cab, and I tried the 13. Did not like it as well as far as its broad appeal to many people, like the 12. My assistant liked it, but she has a more of a rustic, old world palate, so it didn't surprise me that she liked it. But whenever we sell wine to people, we have to look for those wines that will appeal to a broad range of people. So anyway, enough said. Let's get on with the 2013 Sharecroppers Cab. Let's see what we get on the nose. Immediately get tobacco and cherries right away. First thing, right off the bat. Get a little red flowers against some violets and rose petal. A lot of cherry though, ton of cherry. That's the main thing I'm getting. It's perfume, so I mean it's really popping out of the glass, which is kind of cool. For those of you that do take the time to smell your wines, which I do encourage, by the way, we all should take the time and smell wine. It really enhances the experience. But for those of you who already do it, if you haven't started doing it, I would encourage you to do it. But for those who do get into smelling your wines before you actually taste them, you love it when they're aromatic, when those aromas just pop out of the glass. Get a little interesting, like green, black tea, sort of both of them together. Let's see what we get on the palate. good structure. A little bit tight. I think it's because it's 2013. Actually, 13 was a hotter vintage from what I remember. Hotter. I like it when I do that. Hotter vintage. That I've heard it had some heat spikes in 13. So a lot of people, some winemakers like 12 better, some like 13 better, some like 11 a lot because 11 was a cooler season. So a lot of winemakers like that. I realized doing these videos that I need to work on my spitting practices. Sometimes I do it just right other times. I always get a little bit right there. Not sure what I'm doing wrong. I need to practice. I wonder if they have spitting classes. Anyway, a lot of red currants coming through on this one. A little cassis. It's got good acid. The only problem I have is I get a little tobacco too on the back side of this one. The tannins are smooth, but they're structured. I'm just feeling a little bit, I don't know if I'm feeling a little bit of makeup on this wine. Makeup meaning I feel a little bit of, like it's not, it's good cab, but it just doesn't taste authentic to me like it should. A little bit of spice at the backside, which I really like it. It's a good wine. I'm going to take that back about the makeup. It's just a little tight. I think it'll open up after another year or so in the bottle. I think you're going to get through some of that fruit. I think that there's like something, a lid on top of the fruit, a little bit. Of course, they didn't use a lot of new oak on this. It's only $16. For those of you who don't realize that this, a French oak barrel costs over $1,000. American oak, $700, $800. Sometimes you can get them a little less. But the point is that that money that they spend on that oak transfers into the price of the wine. They have to get their money back. They have to retrieve that through the price of the wine. So when you wonder why one wine's more expensive than another, a lot of times it has to do with how much they spent on the oak barrels that they put the wine in. So this could have very little oak. They might have used concrete eggshells. That's getting to be a big thing now. But anyway, let's get another little whirl on the palate. I'm not super excited about this wine. I think it's lacking something. I don't know what it is. There's not good expansion of the fruit through the mid palate. It feels a little bit closed up to me. I can't guarantee that it will open up. I think it's a C+ cab. I think for $16 you probably will not be hugely disappointed, but it's not better than C+. No way. Let's move on to the next one. 2011 Waterbrook Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon, Columbia Valley, and this rolls in at $24. And yes, Waterbrook does do a regular cab, Columbia Valley, so when they say reserve, it means something. They do have another level down from this. All right, so Waterbrook is owned by the big company in Washington State called Precept Brands. They own a lot of different wineries, and they they allow winemakers to come in and do their thing. They just buy them up, kind of like Constellation Brands and Canandaigua. These are all big companies that have bought up other wineries. St. Michel in Washington State, huge winery, owns a lot of different interests. They own wineries down in Napa. They have a partnership with Antinori in Italy. They do a lot of different things. They have some projects down in Argentina. Nothing wrong with that. And I certainly learned a lot interviewing Bill Powers about St. Michel. I had kind of this, a little bit of a negative attitude about St. Michel because it was big. But you know, nothing wrong with being big as long as you do wines well, and St. Michel does do wines well. They also support other smaller wineries in Washington State. They actually help them out. So after Bill shared that with me, I had a much bigger appreciation for St. Michel, and I actually have lost that negativity that I had. Anyway, Waterbrook is owned one of the many wineries that Preset Brands owns. John Freeman is a winemaker. Let's see what we get on the nose. So this is a darker currant on the nose. I get a little bit of a tobacco coming through, which every time I say tobacco I think of Eric Asimov, who said, I don't think you can get tobacco. That's just retarded. I mean, I have the deepest respect for Eric Asimov, but yes, you can get tobacco out of the nose. Just because he can't doesn't mean it isn't true. I don't know why people even say that. If all these master sommeliers and wine people say tobacco, and then you stand up and say, no, you can't get tobacco out of your wine. Sorry. You're outvoted. I get like there's almost like a sweetness coming through on the nose for sure. A little bit of black licorice, not strong. It's there, tobacco, currants, and black licorice. It is a classic Cabernet nose. I get just a slight hint of mint, which I find kind of interesting. Good structure. I mean, this is a really nice Cabernet Sauvignon. It has a nice weight in the mouth. It has nice dark currants. Get a little bit of white pepper, a little white and black pepper on the finish, which I find very intriguing. That usually comes from the oak treatment on the wine. That oak imparts a spiciness to the wine. Good acidity too on this one. It really comes on the backside. It's almost mouth-watering on the finish. Yeah, throughout the entire palate, it has good balance, good weight. I think a lot of people will like this cab because it is very delicious, but yet it has great structure, and it is a food cab. A lot of wineries will make cabs that are big, fluffy, kind of fruity cabs, which I don't like. That isn't why I buy a cab. That's why I buy a Zin if I want fruity, fruit-forward, powerful wines. That's not why I buy a cab, and it's really sad to me when those come along, because it's not really what cab is all about. Cab is about a big steak or, some ribs or something like that, pot roast, anything like that. That's what cab's about. It's a food wine in most cases. I mean, some you can drink. I could drink a Waterbrook by itself, certainly. I get a little cassis in the mid palate, which is really intriguing. Nice beam of acidity, good fruit, but very structured, integrated well with the tannins and the acid and all that together. $24. It's a good bottle of wine. I'm going to go B+, A- on that. I think it's a great cab and a good value at $25. Now, let's move on. This is Vapiano Winery, Bruno's Blend. 2011 Cabernet Sauvignon, Columbia Valley, and this rolls in at $20. Vapiano is in Walla Walla, and just a little side point, a lot of these Walla Walla wineries will use Columbia Valley fruit because it's cheaper than Walla Walla. Walla Walla fruit is some of the most expensive fruit per ton in Washington State, and I think Red Mountain probably comes in second, but there's also some nice cool vineyards that demand a lot of money, like up in Yakima Valley, AVA, DeBrule Vineyards. They get a lot of money for their fruit, and it's hard to get. So sometimes it's vineyard, sometimes it's just an appellation that demands a lot of money. But Walla Walla does have expensive fruit, so you'll find a lot of these wineries based in Walla Walla that use Columbia Valley fruit. Waterbrook's is based in Walla Walla, and they use Columbia Valley fruit. Sometimes they will come out with a Walla Walla wine, and then it's always more money. Again, oak barrels translate into the price of the wine, cost of fruit translates into the price of wine. Like Napa Valley fruit, ridiculously expensive per ton. So, the Bruno's Blend. Now, I'm excited about this because I've not tried this in a long time, and I'm always very curious about this. I know that in the past they have a blend that I've tried. They make very old world style wines. So let's see what we get on the nose. A little like, reminds me of like an old board, like an old plank in the garage has been stored there for a long time. Getting a little mocha coming through. Definitely currants, tobacco for sure. Almost a little like a baked earth element coming through. Now I'm very curious to try this. Let's see what we get on the palate. Very good cab. This is a delicious cab. It's got good structure, again, like the Waterbrook. A little deeper than the Waterbrook. I'm going more in the dark fruit category. It's got good acidity, but it doesn't quite overwhelm the wine as much as the Waterbrook did. Good blackcurrant notes, good structured tannins. They don't grip too badly. I get a little bit of tobacco on the mid palate into the finish. It is a little mouth-watering like the Waterbrook on the finish. Has that nice kind of freshness that you get on a lot of wines that have good acid. Makes it an excellent food wine. $20. This one is an amazing cab for 20 bucks. Yeah, I mean, right now, I need a slab of meat, or I need a block of cheese, or some really sharp cheddar cheese, because this, it's making my mouth water. A lot of red flowers on the finish, which I find very intriguing. It's funny, both of the 2011, which a lot of winemakers loved 11, like I said, they loved it because it was not only was it challenging, it was a little cooler, gave them a little more control on the ripening of the fruit. I've had mixed reviews on 2011, depending on the winemaker. These guys did an excellent job. Yeah, this is not a cab you would drink all by itself. It needs food. Excellent wine. I'm going A- on that. 20 bucks. It's a great value if you can find Bruno's Blend 2011 Cabernet Sauvignon. Go for it, but don't go for it as a solo wine. In other words, one where you sit on the couch and watch a movie and drink the cab. Go for it if you're going to have barbecue, hamburgers, pizza, steak, whatever you're going to do. It's perfect for that. Let's move on to the next one. Andrew Will. Columbia Valley Cabernet Sauvignon 2013, and this rolls in at $30. And I believe Andrew Will was in my Cab Franc episode, and I liked it a lot. Kind of excited. It's been a long time since I've tried Andrew Will Cabernet Sauvignon 2013. Okay. A little rinse. You say, well, why does he rinse? They're all cabs. Well, it's just a good idea. I mean, they're all different. So you just want to get that flavor profile from the last wine out of there so it doesn't intrude upon the new wine that you're trying. Let's see what we get on the nose. A little different on the nose here. This is more of almost on the raisin side of a currant. Definitely tobacco. A lot of violets. I mean, it's like violets soaked in currant juice. A little bit of bark coming through, which is interesting. And I'm getting like an interesting like vanilla mocha thing on the very back end. A little bit of baked earth, not dirt. I mean, not like just fresh dirt, but it's more like it's been out in the sun for a while. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying there. All right, let's see what we get on the palate. Very plush right up front. I thought, wow, this is going to be a fruit bomb. But then that acid kicks in and kind of gives it that structure, and then it kind of builds to a crescendo of a sturdy, very good cab, and then you have this nice like white pepper, black pepper thing right in the end of your tongue, and then kind of those wilted violet petals soaked in currants kind of at the very end. It's lingering for quite a while. I always hate it. What? You know what I mean? It's always like, why does the more expensive one have to be one of the best ones? Well, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. We all know how wine is, you know. And that's why a lot of people like to see blind. They have this assumption that if you taste it blind, it's more honest. Well, I get that, but you know, when you're in the wine biz for a long time and you're tasting a lot of wines, I tend to be a little bit more critical towards those well-known brands, because it's like, wow, these guys, you know, $50 cab, it better show me $50 worth of wine. So a lot of times doing it, seeing the label is beneficial for the consumer, because I'm a little more critical eye. And I see a $10 cab, I'm hoping that wine shows well. When it doesn't, you know, it's disappointing, because I really like to find those nice $10 to $20 wines that show well. The Bruno's $20 wine showed well, but you know, blind isn't always a cure-all for making your decision about wines. I like to do blind tastings. Trust me, I'm going to throw a few more in the episode. I don't think I'll do them this month, the rest of this month, just because I want to feature Washington wines. I'm not like trying to challenge myself or do that sort of thing on this event, but on this last week of the month. But I will in April. I promise I'll do a blind tasting. I know I get a lot more views right off the bat when people see those brown bags up there. I know it's very exciting for you guys. But it isn't always a cure-all for getting the wines right. I did hear something, one of the, I don't want to get on a tangent here, I don't want this to be too long, but one very well-known wine magazine, they taste everything blind, that's their claim to fame. But somebody who used to be in the biz with them said, yeah, they taste them blind, but then they unbag them to score them. Just saying. You can say you can taste it blind, but do you score them blind? And do you publish it if one of them doesn't show well? Sweet tannins, good structure, nice spicy finish, good currants, nice rose petal violets coming through. A little bit, it's very dark and sexy cab. This cab you could probably drink all by itself, but I would definitely encourage you to have this with food. It's got good acid, everything about it. I have to go A with Andrew Will. Andrew Will, I have to do it. It's just a very good cab from 2013. Thanks for watching, and I hope you don't mind me doing these Washington Wine Month. That's where we live, that's where I hang. I need to show the respect for this state and the amazing wines that come out of here. Always remember, wine is not a mystery, it is just fermenting for grape juice. Be willing to expand your palate by trying new things, but remember, never let anybody tell you what you should or should not like. It's your palate. If we do that together, we can keep the snob out of wine.